So, welcome to today's Breakfast Bites. This morning, I'm joined by another special guest from Open Cloud Group for the very first time. Hello, Ray.
Hello.
Hi, it's great to meet you. And are you doing well today?
Doing very well, thank you. Yeah,
E-
all good.
Excellent. It's great to have you on for today's Breakfast Bite. Just before we start, would you like to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do at Open Cloud?
Sure. So my name is Ray. As you mentioned, I am the media manager for a Christian media and tech company called Open Cloud Group. And my job is to oversee all the kind of media stuff that comes through the company. I do a lot of editing, do a lot of media branding and all that kind of stuff, as well as I do more creative projects as well. So we're leaning into more of a creative element as well, which has a much broader kind of description, but that's en route. That's not here just yet. But yeah, that's kind of me. That's what I do. I'm married. I've got a beautiful wife. I've been married 16 years. I've got three children who are all crazy, but they're great.
Oh, brilliant. Well, it's great to hear a little bit about you and really, really glad you could join us for today's Breakfast Bite. What is your thought for us this day?
So we have a ministry school as part of our church, and I was recently teaching on the Tabernacle of Moses. So I was like, I gave basically everyone a 2-hour lesson on the tabernacle, everything in it, everything around it, what it was made of, everything. But one of the things that really stood out to me when you go through the structure of the tabernacle, especially from Exodus chapter 25 onwards, in chapter 27, God kind of then leans in and gives Moses this layout of the outer court. And he says that there's going to be 20 pillars on this side and 20 pillars on this side and 10 pillars here and 10 pillars, 60 in total. And that sounds like a really random kind of bit of information. It's like, okay, cool. But what I found out in my study was that there's actually, so you've got 60 pillars around the tabernacle, which is housing the presence of God. You've got these 60 pillars that are made of brass, which is like this symbol for righteous judgment, if you like. Right. So you've got these pillars there that are surrounding the tabernacle, which is the presence of God. But between the genealogy of Adam and Jesus, there's 60 men. So you've got 60 men that represent righteousness between Adam and Jesus. And there's 60 pillars around the tabernacle surrounding the presence of God. And I thought that was just such a wonderful connection. And my thought was this, that, God has always had Jesus in mind. From the very beginning in the garden when Adam fell, God had Jesus in mind already. And what's beautiful is, if you go back to the tabernacle, there's 60 pillars. Their purpose is to hold this white linen curtain all the way around. White represents purity, righteousness. It represents, cleanliness. It represents all those things, all that. But it's also 5 cubits high, this curtain. And its purpose is to shield people who are not worthy from the presence of God. Right? So you've got this righteousness, you've got this purity that's 5 cubits high. Now, 5 in the Bible represents grace. So you've got the grace of God being held up by 60 men, pointing to one way into the presence of God, and that is Jesus Christ. Jesus says, I am the door. Right? Jesus said, I am the door. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Now, if you follow the blueprint of the tabernacle, you have to go through one entrance and one entrance only. And it's at that entrance you're met by the high priest. So it's wonderful symbology. And it was just my thought. And I wanted to encourage you guys this morning that no matter how big we think we're thinking or how big we think our problems are, God is so much bigger that even from the book of Genesis, the very beginning when Adam fell, the worst situation humanity could ever experience, God had a solution in mind already. And that's no different for our situations today. God still has a solution in mind already.
Wow, that's brilliant. I love that. I'd never known that about the tabernacle, but I had always wondered sometimes. You hear these numbers that God gives, they're very, very specific numbers, very specific
Now,
details, everything down to the exact measurements of each piece of cloth and every pole. But that's amazing that there's 60 people between in Jesus' ancestry, and that just shows how God can see the big picture that we can't necessarily see.
That's it. You got it.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much, Ray. That is a wonderful thought for us. That's really encouraging, actually, to know that, even as when we think about our own mistakes, our own history, we might think back a few years or a couple of decades or whatever, and we say, well, I made that mistake and it just, it seems to still affect me today. And you think, actually, God already knew about that. He's got
Mm.
a plan. He knows what he's
Yeah.
doing. It is truly brilliant.
There's a form of Japanese pottery. There's an art of Japanese pottery. I know the name, but I don't want to pronounce it because I'll probably get it wrong. But basically, the pottery that they make is broken, but they fill every crack with liquid gold, and it melts and it solidifies, and then they polish it up, and it looks beautiful. But what makes it beautiful is that the cracks have been repaired with gold. And I see that as often our walk with God, in that we make decisions, we do things, and we get hurt, or whatever happens, we find ourselves getting wounded in these cracks that form in our heart. God then uses his righteousness and his grace and his love to fill every single one. And we end up looking like this amazing, beautiful pottery that wouldn't be the same. It's very unique as well.
Yeah.
Just because your experience of God's grace is different to mine. And the way God has filled you with his love has filled holes and cracks in your heart that I don't have, which makes you wonderfully unique as a person in your walk with God.
Yeah. Yeah. So very true. Thank you so much, Ray. It's been a pleasure to meet you and to hear your thought for this day. I look forward to speaking again soon.
Bless you. Thank you.